Oftentimes, when we've seen results, we tend to give up or we tend to go on easy mode. If you struggle with consistently seeing results over a long period of time, stop sprinting. Start pacing like a marathon. Switch to a mindset of the infinite game, not a finite goal, not a finite limit, and not a finite result. The result is in the journey. I'm Michael A. Blunt, Executive Mindset Coach, and welcome to Wealthy Minded, the podcast for elite men who are looking for success beyond the money. Welcome to Wealthy Minded, the podcast for high value, financially successful men who have done it all: best education, best dressed, best jobs, had the highest honors, have really achieved so much in this lifetime, but still are operating below their full human potential. And this is the podcast for those wealthy minded men, those high value, successful men who are looking to reach their full human potential, to reach a certain level of mastery and discipline in their lives, and to ultimately have it all. Today, what we're going to talk about is the C3 method, which is my de facto number one framework that I teach all of my students within my coaching. This is the framework that helped me get out of corporate and move into creating my own business. This is the framework that moved me from, making barely $30,000 a year when I first started my business to upper six figures. This is the framework that I use to transform the lives of hundreds of my clients, either that's financially, if that's in their marriage, or if that's in their jobs, or if that is within their business, or if that is within their wealth propensity, or if that is just ultimately creating impact in this world. And I want to give it away for free. I want to share it with you. I want you to follow along, and I want you to learn this framework so that you can use it to consciously create anything that you want in your life. Now, this is the logical form of manifestation. And a lot of people talk about manifestation, and I'm sure that you read The Secret, and I'm sure that you've gone to different workshops and you've read books about manifestation. But I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer. I needed to see proof, and I needed a logical step-by-step way in order to see things come into physical fruition. So I've created this framework, the C3 method, which stands for clarity, confidence, consistency. And if you follow this framework, and if you really understand this framework, one, you're going to understand exactly where you are in your life and how to apply it so that you can get from point A to point Z. Secondly, you can use this for anything. You can use this to create ultimate wealth in your life. You can use this to heal your relationships. You can use this to ultimately see a better you mentally, physically, and emotionally. But in order to do that, you first need to have awareness. And that's where we're going to start. Because the first phase of the C3 method is clarity. But in order to get to clarity, you need to be aware. And in order to be aware, you need to set your intention on a specific problem. You need to set your intention on a specific opportunity. If I am clear that I need to use the restroom, then the first step to that is an awareness that I need to use the restroom. The second step is clarity that the bathroom is right there. And the next steps after that is I'm going to be running to the bathroom. So, in order for you to have clarity in your life about where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to be, ultimately, how you're going to get there, you first need to be aware that there is a situation that is calling you. Normally, when you're here within this stage, it's a point of contention. It is a point of restlessness. It is a problem that's been festering within you. This problem could be I'm not making enough money. This problem could be I am making so much money, but I don't have time to spend it. This problem could be I'm having issues with my wife. Even though I have a financially successful business, I found intimacy within my marriage to be nil. This is your awareness. So wherever you're aware that you're going to put your attention. And when you put your attention there, that's when you can be clear about which direction that you want to go in. And once you're clear about that, that's when you'll start manifesting the results in the next phases. Let me be clear about what that looks like. When you're aware of a situation and you can step into that awareness, if you can take just a few seconds, minutes, or hours, you can decide if you want your clarity to be negative or if you want your clarity to be positive. If I'm going to react to a situation and it's a hard reaction because someone cut me off in line, someone pissed me off, someone took away my money, someone offended my family. Once I'm aware of the situation that happened, I'm going to become clear on how I want to respond. So the awareness is that the situation happened. The clarity is, how do you want to respond? How do you want to go about doing this? You are not on autopilot. You are consciously creating every facet of your life, even if you don't realize it. This requires your attention, not your reaction to life. And everything flows from this place of conscious decision making. So let me give you an example. I worked in corporate America for a number of years, and this is what I shared in previous episodes. And during that time, I became aware that I was unfulfilled. I became aware that I was having mental health issues. I became aware that I was no longer happy working within corporate America. I became aware that I was overlooked and undervalued. And all of these things were causing me to really disdain where I was in that place in my life. That was the awareness. I set my attention on the problem. Now, my intention was to do something about that problem. I then set my intention on creating a life of fulfillment. And when I thought about my life of fulfillment, I immediately came to the solution and came to the conclusion that I needed to leave corporate America. I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I was very clear that this was no longer a place where I was needed. I was leaving corporate America and I was choosing entrepreneurship. That's the clarity. That was my intention. Now, again, this is where everybody gets stuck because you assume that you need the answer at this level. At this level, all you need to do is just take an action. Let me give you another example of a client that I work with. This client came to me and was completely out of alignment with his value systems. He had a wife that he was cheating on. He had kids that he was disconnected with. He was 20 kilos overweight and he was in millions of dollars of debt. That was his awareness to the problem. He came to me with the problem saying that he wanted it to be different. I said, "What are you setting your intention on?" He said, "Well, I want more connection with my wife. I want to heal my relationship with my kids. I want to lose the kilos and I want to get out of debt." That's the clarity. That was the intention. We weren't exactly sure how that was going to happen, but by setting that intention, the universe set into motion a number of different events, a chain of events that allowed him to have opportunities. And these opportunities allowed him to not only prove himself, but also to respond differently to life. And he responded differently to life by saying this one thing: I do not want to be like my father. I do not want to be like my grandfather. And at first, I didn't understand that when he said it. But when he started giving his background in the story, he mentioned that his father was very abusive. He mentioned that his grandfather neglected his father. He mentioned that none of those men, although they were very financially successful, they weren't there for their kids. They never had time to spend with their family. These men, his father and his grandfather, were both abusive. They were both alcoholics. These men were out of alignment with their value systems, and they passed on that trait to my client. My client, not knowing any differently, continued in that same pattern. He became aware that this was his pattern, and he became aware that this was the pattern that was inherited from his father and his father's father. His next job was to respond differently, and he responded differently through clarity. He wanted to be connected to his kids. He wanted to be faithful to his wife. He wanted to quit alcohol and he wanted to get in shape and he wanted to get out of the massive debt that was inherited from his family. So he had to ask himself the question within clarity by setting his intention: what is my why and how do I want to respond differently in life moving forward? So I want you to ask yourself, this is the question that I always get from a lot of successful, high value men who are only focused on financial success. What is my next step? So if you are asking yourself, what is my next step beyond the financial success? What is my next step beyond being extremely oppressive to my coworkers or my employees or to the world? What is my next step in being impactful? You want to start with clarity. So now, since you are clear about how you want to respond differently, now, since you are clear about your intention that you are setting to create a different reality, the next phase of the C3 method is confidence. But the question is, how do you go directly to confidence from a point of clarity? Well, there's a little phase right in between clarity and going into confidence, and that's called disruption. This is probably the mini phase that lots of people get tested in and they don't pass. This is the place of resistance, or what I call the zone of resistance. I want you to think about this, man. If you're playing a sport, let's say football, and your goal is to win the Super Bowl, your goal is to win that game. When the ball is kicked off to you and you receive that ball, can you walk directly into the end zone? The answer is, of course not. Why? Because you're getting tested by the defense. You got 350-pound linebackers and defensive linemen coming directly at you, running a 4.5 40, and they are not stopping until they tear your head off. This is the resistance that you will receive in life. You've set your intention. You are clear that you want to score your touchdown. You set your intention on winning the Super Bowl, but you have people, you have situations, you have experiences, you have life resisting you from getting there. And you say, what is the purpose of this? If I'm very clear, if I'm very intentional that I want to get to the other side of this is the business that I want to create. This is the life that I want. I want to connect more with my wife. I want to have my kids around me. I want more of my time back. I want my mental health to increase. I want to increase my physical health as well. Why can't it just be that easy? Everything else in my life up until this point has been that easy. If I wanted to study at the best schools, I went to the best schools and I just studied hard and I got there. If I wanted to have money, I just busted my ass and I got more money. But why, when I try to have it all outside of financial success, when I try to have the wife, the kids, if I want the experience, if I want the opportunity, if I want everything else in my life to be just as successful as my finances, why can't those all fall in order? Well, this is the disruption phase, and this is to test your resilience. Are you sure you want the thing that you said that you wanted? Are you sure this is the direction that you wanted to go to? Are you sure this is exactly how you wanted to respond? This is exactly how you wanted to respond. The universe is going to test your commitment. I'll give you an example. My intention was to leave corporate America and start my own business and save corporate America by creating an employee wellness program for corporations around the world. That was my intention. The disruption came when I had great branding, I had amazing following, but I wasn't generating any money from my sales. I was making no more than $30,000 a year living in New York, and I couldn't scrape more pennies together to do anything else outside of paying my rent. I was being tested. I said that I wanted to start this employee wellness business called the C3 method, ironically. And I was getting clients, but the clients weren't paying me very much. But I was living in my purpose and I was living in my passion, but the revenue that I was generating wasn't supporting my vision. The problem was I was hiding behind other people. I was hiring contractors to do the work for me. I was hiring contractors to do the massage therapy, the yoga, the meditation, the Pilates, and I was just running the business in the background. Now, it was a great business model, but people were buying into me. People were buying into me as the brand, and I didn't realize that at the time. As I was going through the disruption phase, I kept hitting failure after failure after failure after failure. I kept getting told no. I kept subconsciously putting myself in positions where I wasn't going to succeed. I had a business partnership that didn't pan out. I had financial goals that never were hit. After a while, I had a conversation with one of my friends, one of my mentors, and she mentioned, no one knows who you are, but everyone knows who the brand is. People want to hear from you. And the gift that you have is that you disrupt change in people's lives. They come to you for advice. They come to you for mentoring. They come to you for coaching. They come to you to get help. And that resonated with me, not initially, but after so many failures, after so many no's, I started trying something different. And I started helping the people around me. And I started putting myself out there as the person that can help them get to from point A to point Z. Now, this is first started off with advice, but then this went into coaching, and that coaching then landed into mentoring. And then I started charging people. And then ultimately, that became the next phase of my business. I found a tremendous amount of success in doing this type of work. This type of work came easily to me. The clients came flowing to me. And that's where I built my confidence. I built my confidence from the failures. Real confidence is built through failure. Every setback builds muscle. And those setbacks built such a resiliency from me. It refined me so much that I was ready to take on any failure and any setback or rejection that came my way within the business. So, to recap, I became aware that I was unfulfilled, that I was stressed out, being overlooked and undervalued. So, I needed to do something about it. I set the intention that I wanted to create a new reality. And that gave me the clarity to leave corporate America and then move into creating my own business. Once I started creating my own business, I ran into resistance. And that resistance, that failure, those rejections and those setbacks really refined me into becoming more resilient, becoming more emotionally resilient and emotionally regulated to anything that was going to be in my way of my vision. Once I realized that it was these failures, it was these setbacks, and all of the rejection that I was going through was the necessary next step that I needed in order to move into confidence, I continued pushing forward and I finally found confidence in setting out a new chart in my business. I went into a different direction in my business, and then my business became profitable. And that profitability was all the momentum that I needed in order to be successful. This is what gave me the momentum. And this is the mini step before we get into the last phase of the C3 method, which is consistency. Consistently building and consciously creating the steps that are needed in order to build the life that you want. The momentum were the daily actions that I took that came from the foundation of my confidence. It was the catalyst that I needed in order to take the daily, necessary, boring actions day in and day out for not only days, for not only weeks, not only months, but for years of not seeing results, but being positive and being absolutely certain without a doubt that I was going to create the lifestyle that I wanted. And the lifestyle that I wanted was outside of financial success. I wanted to have it all. I deserved to have it all. I wanted to have a healthy partnership. I didn't want to be in any more toxic relationships. I eventually wanted kids. I wanted to have a connection with God. I wanted to focus on my mental health. And I wanted to live a life on purpose, with purpose, that I could be proud of and I could pass on as an ultimate legacy within my family. In order to do that, I needed to be committed to a point where I was doing the same thing consistently over and over and over for a long period of time. Now, this is what gets people stuck as well. They have the clarity, which is the intention. You're setting the intention. They go through the disruption phase and they were able to come out of that strong and build their confidence. Then they get stuck at this phase of being a confident person that has the intention of creating a lifestyle that they want. But how do you actually build that? How do you actually see and physically feel the results in your life? This is the part of manifestation that a lot of people don't focus on, which is the action. This is the action that you take in order to bring the visualization that you have in your mind, to bring the image, to bring the value system, to bring the people, the opportunities, to bring the experiences into the 3D physical reality. And it's doing the thing that you said that you were going to do within clarity 100% of the time. And it's being confident that it's going to come 100% of the time. And if you can do those two things at the same time 100% of the time, you will eventually start to consistently build 100% of the lifestyle that you're looking for. And you will eventually reach your full human potential. This is the paradigm shift that is needed in order for you to have it all. Now, let me conclude where I am in my story because I feel like my story is ongoing, but I want to show you where I am as far as my consistency. Now, remember, I built the confidence and I had the confidence from all the failure and all the setback, but I wanted to consistently build the lifestyle in a way that I wanted to build it on my own terms. So, what did I do? I consistently studied, I consistently mastered myself. I said that I wanted a healthy partnership, and I said that I wanted to have a family, but I didn't have the time to have the family because I was always working, making money, being financially successful. So, how do I do that? I consistently worked at building systems where I was going to have more time and more money. I was able to 10x the amount that I was making by reducing my client load, but increasing my prices. This gave me back my time to consistently build the systems that I needed in order for me to have the environment, in order to have the opportunities to meet my partner, to create my family, to invest in my spiritual relationship with God, to increase my physical health. I had the time to scale myself. And in scaling myself, I was able to scale all the different parts of my life that mattered. And I was able to do that over a long period of time. I've committed a lifetime to this. This isn't something where I see results after doing ayahuasca and I come back and then all of a sudden things are changed. This is something that is going to take the rest of my life to see through. This is one of the problems that I see with people who are looking for mentors, who are looking for coaching, who are looking for help in getting to their next level. They put in the work, they see the results, and then they stop. They're playing the finite game rather than the infinite game. The finite game says, I want to get married. The infinite game says, I want to stay married in a healthy and loving relationship. The finite game says, I want to have kids. The infinite game says, I want to have kids who have a certain value system and that can make an impact on the world. The finite game says, I want to lose 10 pounds. The infinite game says, I plan to be healthy and energetic for the rest of my life. Once I switched my mindset from these finite goals, I then was able to transition into being wealthy minded, which is the infinite journey of reaching my full human wealth potential. My full human wealth potential is how do I have it all? Not just win in one category, but lose in every other category. How do I scale myself and continue to scale myself for the rest of my life? Not just this year, but forever. For the time that I am on this earth and I am breathing, how do I consistently see that so that I can consistently level up and see results in my life? You're creating a lifestyle of infinite wealth and love and alignment, not just a moment and experience. So if you are in this situation yourself, where you've had the clarity, you have the confidence, you also have the momentum, and you've seen results, don't stop. Switch to an infinite game of making the journey the end result, of making the journey and the process of getting there your fulfillment, your purpose, and your desire. So I'll end by saying this. Oftentimes, when we've seen results, we tend to give up or we tend to go on easy mode and we tend to go on autopilot. If you struggle with consistently seeing results over a long period of time, stop sprinting. Start pacing like a marathon. Switch to a mindset of the infinite game, not a finite goal, not a finite limit, and not a finite result. The result is in the journey. If you are a type of person who is struggling with eating and you want to decrease your weight and you want to lose weight, after you see the results, don't stop. If you are the type of person who suffers from anxiety and depression and you've taken classes and you've meditated and you really worked on yourself and you start to see results, don't stop. That's only the beginning of the work. The work starts at the beginning and the work stops never. Show up even after your wins. Remember, you are building a legacy, not outcomes. Wealthy minded is an identity. An identity takes time to create, and it takes iteration after iteration to sustain. If you want to sustain in life and you want to sustain an amazing lifestyle where you have it all, become clear about what you want, but understand that you're going to go through disruption. Those failures that you go through are going to create a confident version of you. And that confident version of you is then going to push you into this momentum. And that momentum will be the force that you need to consistently work out the life that you want to create over and over and over and over again. This is what all wealthy and high value men have to look forward to after financial success. This is the identity shift that we need in order to become wealthy minded. Thank you all for listening to the podcast today. And if you want to learn more about this process, if you want to learn how to really take it to the next level, reach out to me. We have a free school community and we have an inner circle of elite and successful men who are doing the work, who are committed to mastery, and who are eagerly looking to move beyond financial success and to reaching their full human wealth potential. You can see all of my free content at Microwave Blunt at Instagram or Microwave Blunt YouTube or microwaveblunt.com. I'll leave my free school links below so that you can join the community. And for those that really want to take it to the next level, who are looking for accountability, who are looking for structure, who are looking for exactly the reset and the reprogramming that is needed in order to move beyond financial success, you'll be able to find me within the men's inner circle. If you reach out, you can set an appointment. And if your application falls into alignment with our values, I will personally get on a phone call with you and we will talk about how you can reach your full human wealth potential. I'll see you all next time on Wealthy Minded. Stay successful, man.